Hey everybody, it's AJ Mansour. Popping in real quick before we start today's podcast to say thank you to a company within our community that is doing really good things. Cultivated CBD. You've heard us talk about them on the radio, and now they're sponsoring the Here and Now podcast. I'd like to thank them for that. This is a company that is engaged in our community and believes in making our community a better place for everybody. So, encourage you now, check out cultivatedcbd.com. We have a special promo code KFAN. You can insert that promo code at the checkout and get 10% off all of your CBD products. They have the new cooling and heating balms, CBD salves for sore muscles that you can get in the summertime. They have the fruit de pate gummies. They have all the CBD products, 10% off with that promo code KFAN at checkout. We got fruit de pate gummies, the tincture oils, the spearmint flavor is my favorite, and then the new CBD salve, the heating and cooling balm that you can put on your sore muscles after you work out in the summer, after you're working in the yard, whatever it might be. Big time thanks to Cultivated CBD. You'll see that promo code down in this little ticker. It'll run throughout the podcast on this video. And head over, cultivatedcbd.com. Anthony and the gang, thank you so much for your belief in this podcast and the important messages in our community to just make it a better place. So thank you, Cultivated CBD. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Here and Now podcast, an extension of the Here on Earth podcast. I am AJ Mansour. Josh, my co-host, is out this week, but he will be back no worse for the wear next week. But we did have a cool opportunity to chat with one of our local athletes, Minnesota Wild player Matt Dumba, who has jumped onto the national scene as an advocate for social justice, launching the Hockey Diversity Alliance this year. Something that is taking the NHL by storm, has been accepted by players, staff members, and the commissioner's office as well. So good to see that gaining ground. But Matt has been involved here in Minnesota for years, but specifically since the George Floyd situation, has really got involved with revitalizing Lake Street and really bringing awareness to the injustice that is in our community. But he's taken it to a national stage now. So Matt has been a loud voice. You saw him on the national scene as the hockey playoffs kicked off again, delivering an empowered speech about injustice, about eradicating racism in the game of hockey and in our world. He then became the first player in the history of the NHL to kneel during the national anthem. A really cool thing to attribute to one of our own players here for the Minnesota Wild. But let's dive right into that conversation because we really want to hear what he has to say about what's going on in our world, how we can fix it, and how hockey as a sport, the NHL, could maybe be a better environment for diverse kids growing up and diverse players once they get to the league. So Matt Dumba, Minnesota Wild, on the Here and Now podcast. All right, well, let's dive right on into it. Our guest today, Matt Dumba from the Minnesota Wild. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you taking the time not only to join us for this podcast, but to become so vocal and kind of change your role on this hockey team, in this hockey league, and really take on a bigger role that is bigger than yourself. So let's start right away. Tell us a little bit about why maybe it's clearly so important to you, but what has pushed you to the point where you're so outspoken on the issue of race and social justice in hockey and in our world today?
I think in hockey is just the stuff that I faced personally when I was younger, that I went through, that I thought at that point was just part of being a hockey player, and stuff that I had to work through on my own. But when it's coming together with the HCA, hearing the stories of all the other guys, and really thinking about them, thinking about their kids, and what their futures have in hockey. I think a Minnesota guy that everyone loved while he was here, Chris Stewart. He's the big homie to me, and he's like a brother. And seeing his little boys, he's got two twins, Christian and Connor, and one that's 3 years younger. He just turned 3 today, actually, named Cannon. Thinking of those guys, and if they had to go through that same things, I've heard Stu say it, and he's like, "What? Why would I put them in hockey? If it's inevitable that they're going to face that type of hurt and discouragement, from our game. And once I started thinking about that, and my cousins, and you know carrying on kind of a legacy my grandmother left behind when she adopted 7 kids of all different ethnicities in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan in the '60s. Um, I think that's all led me here, and the passion that I have for it, and my family, doing it for them, thinking about all my little cousins and my aunts and uncles, stuff that they've been through, that just isn't right. And just you come down to the end of it, and it's just enough. When's it going to be enough, right? When can we say enough is enough, and make a stand? And I think that's what HDA has done, and players have supported it. And um, I just want to. It's not really a moment either. It's something that I want to carry on for, you know, not just 1 year, 2 years from now. Hopefully, that's a lifelong thing, and we can really change this sport for the better.
You mentioned the HDA Hockey Diversity Alliance. Tell me a little bit about that, the implementation of it, how it's been received so far by your fellow players.
It's been really good. I guess if you've followed any of these players on Instagram, or um, their accounts, or have seen anything, guys are starting. They're wearing the gear, but that's the least of what they've done. Last week I was very proud to see the guys, boycott the games, and stand up for injustice in society, and also the injustice so many kids in hockey face on a year-to-year basis. And um, it was cool that a lot of the teams wanted to learn further, and we were able to have some calls and some good discussions, tough conversations that I think everyone needs to experience during times like this right now. And um, kind of have that empathy and put yourself in someone else's shoes, and relate to one another, so we can get out of these trying times.
Tell me about the moment when it came together that you were going to be on an international stage before the qualifiers began, with a microphone in your hand, sharing an impassioned speech about racial justice, racial injustice, and then kneeling on television with on the red carpet right there, center ice. What was that moment like, and how important was those words that you were able to share to that giant audience to you?
Obviously very, very important to me, and I knew what kind of magnitude something of that would carry. So I did my best within the 2 days. It was pretty quick. It all happened pretty fast. The 2 days that they gave me, I just tried to memorize it as good as I could, and then I was just happy I got it all out there, because I was nervous as hell. To be honest, going up there wasn't easy. I've never talked to so many people before in such an empty space, especially. So that was that was crazy. But I'm glad I got it out there.
Now, unintended controversy, I guess, a little bit sparked from that moment. The following moments, when you had your game the next night, you were very, very public and very obviously kneeling, raising a fist. We know better now than to say that because your teammates didn't kneel, they don't support you. We know that that's not the case. What have those conversations been like? What has the support in your locker room been like throughout the league? Maybe not in people that are kneeling necessarily, but people that are having those conversations, which may be even more important, like you mentioned, behind the scenes.
Yeah, I shared everything that I was doing with my team. I held a presentation. We had everyone in there, coaching staff, trainers, so everyone understood where I stood and where we stood as an organization. I think Billy G and Coach, and Diener were instrumental in it all too, because they wanted that from the first day of camp, and we had talked personally about a lot of the stuff and changes that we want to see in Minnesota, kind of being the flagship for this, or somewhat of a beacon across the league. Um, so that was really empowering, and knowing that I had the support of my teammates to do those things was huge. And the kneeling part, it was not out of disrespect by any means. And we had talked to Cap about it and what he did, and I've read everything about it, and why I did it was, I think is a sign of honor to honor those, and kneeling has always been that, a sign of respect, and to kneel on that type of stage, I had conversations. You could kneel after a goal. You could kneel, and this time, or when could you do it other than that? And there's no other time, or in an interview I couldn't address it that is different than any other interview or any other goal that I've ever scored. And just a flash, a second, or just words, just for that moment. When you kneel for a full song, it brings attention, and that's what it is. It's attention towards the social injustices that are going on within our society, and bringing light to them. Um, and that's what I was doing. And honestly, I regretted not kneeling for the Canadian national anthem, and that was just a lapse, because I was just so fired up, and running off so many different emotions during that time. I just kind of slipped my mind, and I wish I would have, because there is definitely racial injustice that goes on in Canada, and there eerie similarities to how Canada has treated its First Nation people for hundreds of years, the same way.
Hockey, each sport is a little unique in the sense of the origins of the sport, the players that make up the sports, and they're all kind of handling the situation a little differently. Hockey is one of those sports that the players, especially in the NHL, are very much from around the world. How has it been received by your teammates, by the people that you talk with through the HDA, that are from different countries where maybe there are similar situations, maybe there aren't similar situations, but it really is a global game? How has that global audience kind of adapted to what your message and what you're sharing?
Some of my best friends are, European guys, Jonas Brody and Mikhail Granlund, Niederreiter, Eric Sinek, and those, and Victor Rask, and just being able to have those conversations as best friends when we're sitting down for dinners or on FaceTimes, um, and then show their support, and really just listen and understand, and you know they're good dudes, and they all understand that it's um, you know once you hear some of the stories, and understand why, it almost seems like a no-brainer, on why you couldn't wrap your head around this, or understand, why there's a need for this in our game. Um, so having the support of those guys goes a long way, because I don't know if it's the same over in Sweden, um, or some of those Scandinavian countries, diversity wise, but um, they've been awesome. I know they're the first guys to reach out for me, to reach out to me after um, some of these events, and I'm really appreciative that I have good friends like that.
Oh, that's great. You are one of three finalists for the King Clancy Award, Leadership and Community Involvement. Um, for the first time, two of the three finalists' main focus has been racial equality, supporting underprivileged youth, and in the heat and in light of, I'm sorry, George Floyd, everything that's been going on since then, and continues to go on. Unfortunately, that has taken a forefront, and is very a focal point in this game. How encouraging is it to see that this community award, this leadership award, 2/3 of the finalists, whether you guys win or not, you're bringing a lot of attention to the causes that you guys bring to the table. How encouraging is it to see you and PK Subban both involved in this sort of a mission?
It's awesome. Everything that these guys are doing, what we're doing, is great. Whenever you can, you know, leave something behind that's greater than hockey. I think that's where a legacy comes in along with the hockey stuff, and just being someone who's a part of that community, and you can see over years that has given a lot back to that community. So to have these guys and be up there with them, it's a great honor, and I'm excited to see who it is come Monday.
Two-part question, starting with the hockey side of it. The HDA, what's next? What's on the horizon for the plans that you guys have for bringing light to the NHL? What you're pushing?
Hopefully it's the NHL. Signing the pledge with HDA. Getting the ball rolling so we can really get back to what we want to accomplish, and that's helping the youth, helping set up grassroots initiatives for kids, some of the policies that come along with that. There's hiring targets in there, stuff that we believe that's attainable. I guess you can see all of that on the Hockey Diversity Alliance.org. But yeah, that's where we're going next.
And the secondary part of that question, clearly you've been involved a lot in what's happened here in Minneapolis. You've been involved with ACES for years now, but you really did activate too when George Floyd, that situation occurred, revitalizing Lake Street, revitalizing our community here. What do you think the next step needs to be for our community? There's an election around the corner. What are some things that you think need to happen sooner rather than later to kind of get that ball rolling in the right direction?
From our community standpoint, yeah, the election, everyone getting out to vote, and then I think it all comes together when we can all, come together and lend that helping hand and rebuild our community and stand strong amongst each other. There's so much tension built up right now that. We got to show real support to those in need right now, because so many people are living their lives day to day with that stress, and there's another half of us that lives inside that bubble. So just having those conversations, putting yourself out there, being vulnerable, and showing empathy towards the others, I think those are some major steps.
Oh, there you have it. Really cool conversation with Matt Dumba. You want to learn more about what he's working on? Check out hockeydiversityalliance.org. You'll learn all about what they are putting on the table, what they're presenting to the commissioner's office, hoping that they can make the NHL a better place. But obviously, that extends down to all the way to Pee-wees. I mean, that goes all the way down to the young kids that are learning to play this wonderful game, and opening up the diversity and the aspects that they bring to the table there too. So great things that he's doing in our community, in the game of hockey, and in our world. Check him out on Twitter. He's an active and very vocal person, really supporting some good causes. So if you want to catch any old episodes of the Here and Now podcast, where we have conversations about race and injustice in our world, we're about 6, 7, 8 episodes deep now. So if you want to go check those out, check it out. Here and Now podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can subscribe there. So every time we upload a new conversation, you'll be alerted. It'll go right to your phone, your device, your computer, whatever it be, and you'll hear it first and foremost to get these important conversations out there. That's the goal of this, not to listen to me talk, but to listen to people that have had different experiences than you and I, learning about racial diversity, learning about racial injustice, and the ways that we can make our community and our world a better place. So we'll continue on with more interviews starting next week, the Here and Now podcast on iHeartRadio.